Hello everybody, my name is Doug, and welcome to Comically Incompetent. This is the podcast where every week we take a movie, take a beer, and we talk about it. This week we're going to be talking about Black Panther, getting closer to the end of this MCU interview series. And along with Black Panther, we have a very, very important beer called Black is Beautiful, where the proceeds go to the Black Lives Matter movement. We'll get more into that at the end of the show. But to introduce my guest, if you're watching on YouTube, which we are on YouTube, don't forget that, you guys already know, it's Grayson. Grayson, how you doing?
Hey guys, great to be back. I'm in a new location, so no wind chimes this week. Unlike previous weeks where maybe people were getting soothed by my wind chimes and then maybe deeply startled by my dog simultaneously. So it's kind of, I like to keep people on their toes, but this week we're at my girlfriend's sister's house. As you can see, the stuffed animals in the background. They're actually all mine. I just brought them here.
Yeah, say those aren't yours?
No. The Hello Kitty's mine, but everything else is was already here. I don't go anywhere without my My Little Pony or Hello Kitty.
Been there, my friend.
Big brony.
So how you doing? You doing good?
Doing great. Beautiful NFL Sunday. My fantasy team's losing. I consumed 14,000 calories already, so we're just ready to go.
You didn't have Dak Prescott, did you?
No, I have Amari Cooper, the receiver. So, yeah, Dak Prescott,
bad.
Wishing the best for you. That did not look good.
Hopefully he recovers pretty quick. So, Grayson, I'm going to throw something at you. Because the episode with Dominic hasn't aired yet. So you don't even know. I have a new segment.
New segment alert.
It's a short segment. It's Question of the Week. It's called Question of the Week. It's whatever I think of on my drive home from work.
Okay.
So, here's my question for you. This question has nothing to do with anything, by the way. Which, just a quick shout out, if you guys have a question of the week, you can put it in the YouTube comments below, or put it on Twitter or Instagram, whatever. So, Grayson, my question for you.
Oh, I didn't study.
You don't have to, well, okay. Maybe. Why is Paramore still so goddamn good? Like, why is Still Into You just get me right to my core? Why does Misery Business, which is like over 10 years old, still just hits so perfectly? I got it, because if your answer is good, we'll move on with the show. If not, I'm going to stop recording right now. So what do you got for me?
I'm going to say something to you, and it's initially going to sound like a dig, but I promise I'm going to get there. The lead singer of Paramore, Hayley Williams.
Yes.
Her voice is so... It's not, like, great, if you know what I mean, but it's so, like, soothing in the right way. Like, I don't think she has, like, necessarily this great, like... She doesn't have this Ariana Grande range or Whitney Houston power. She doesn't have anything even close to that, but she has this, like, perfectly just, like, soothing voice that always is just like, oh, yeah, it just kind of takes you back. Like, I listened to the song that... I don't know. It hasn't aged well. I think it's kind of a terrible song now. Airplanes by B.O.B. is a bad song. I remember like sophomore year just being like, man, this is hitting like different of high school, by the way. Sophomore year of high school. Like, damn, this is really hitting different. And then like I just listened to it the other day and I just kind of like looked at my girlfriend and we're like, is this song bad? Like, why did I think this was so deep before? It's so bad. But anyways, her voice is still like a highlight of that song.
All right, I like your answer. But just one more question before we get in the show. Can we pretend that we're airplanes in the night sky, like shooting stars?
I could really use a wish right now. Wish right now. Like, just like, I urge everybody to go back and listen to that song. It's terrible.
It does not hold up, I'm assuming. I'm going to have to do it.
It does not hold up. And I think there's like a remix where like Eminem has a verse in it. Like, why?
What even is that?
Where did 2012 have the audacity? This is like the peak Tumblr era where it was like all about swag and like this weird stuff. So we were all like in our feelings. Yeah, we were all in our feelings during the Tumblr era, and I think that's why. All right. It hit different.
I respect that. Yeah. So going in the movie...
Didn't expect a B.O.B. Didn't expect a B.O.B. tangent this early.
It's okay.
Flat Earther, by the way. One of our people.
No.
Yeah,
Is he really?
Earther. Yeah, a staunch believer in Flat Earth.
Do you think he spoke at the FEIC, the Flat Earth International Convention?
I would hope so. He's our king.
We're not Flat Earthers, by the way. It's just a joke. It's just a joke. Oh, God. Okay, we're going to jump in the movie now. We're going to let that go. So I think as far as this movie goes, when you start it, I think just the first thing, obviously, the passing of Chadwick Boseman, the passing of a legend, and truly just, I mean, when I think about this movie, I think of how if there was an Oscar for cultural impact and importance, this movie would win it 10 times out of 10. And Chadwick was such an important part of that in bringing this movie to a level of just like, his acting is so good. I mean, 42, 21 Bridges, everything that he's ever done is fantastic. And so he brought something to this movie that I think, I think just the first thing we have to say is how much his talent impacted this movie and how important he is to what Marvel built over the years.
Yeah, I mean, just completely tragic, out of the blue for most of us. I mean, I think in hindsight there were clues that something was going on. You saw some pictures, that kind of stuff. And it was really unfortunate just maybe how social media construed those a different way than they actually were. I think people kind of ended up eating their words. But kind of getting into what you're talking about in terms of cultural impact, my brother, Wyatt, shout out Wyatt, just won Teacher of the Year in Maryland. He is a middle school teacher in Baltimore. And when this movie first came out, obviously his student population is 90% African American. His school took every single kid from first grade through 8th grade to see this movie.
Wow. That's amazing.
Every single kid to see this movie. And then he paid out of his own pocket for toys and comic books for the kids that couldn't go see it. This was the first time for many of them that they saw a main character hero that looked like them.
Yeah.
And it was Chadwick Boseman. And he portrayed the Black Panther in such a way that was so... It just felt so natural. And the way I think he was very respectful to African culture. I remember I read a story after his passing that they originally wanted him to have a British accent. They wanted the character to have a British accent with the explanation being, oh, he went to British boarding school, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And he said no.
Yeah, that does make sense.
He said, no, sorry, like, this is an African story. I need to have an African accent. This is about Wakanda being this dream futuristic nation. Why would somebody leave? Why would somebody seek education elsewhere? Right? So he was very respectful to the African culture. Even like dressing for the premieres and that kind of stuff and kind of more traditional African attire. And I think the way that he represented this character, I mean, it's one of those things like the Black Panther character as it is has to be over because nobody else can do what he did.
Yeah. I mean, I think one thing that I remember noticing first time I ever saw this movie, I remember I went to midnight premiere in Los Angeles to see this movie, and you have a lot of these actors who will play like kings and queens and stuff like that, but he brought such a sense of like, he was so like regal and poised, and you believe it immediately. Like there's actors who will play a king and you're like, oh, like, all right, like whatever. But he did it in such a way that like, he was just so comfortable. He looked like he'd been playing this character his whole life, not just in 2 movies. Well, 1.5 really, because he wasn't a main character in Civil War. And he just brought something that was so powerful to this. And I remember seeing it in theaters, and the theater in Los Angeles losing their minds at everything. And you have an all-star lineup. You have Lupita Nyong'o, kills it. Amazing. You have just everyone in this movie. Letitia Wright, Sterling K. Brown, Forrest Whitaker. I mean, like, it just goes on.
The cast for this movie is crazy. Michael B. Jordan, who had, I think, coming up Creed.
Yeah, coming up Creed fan.
Martin Freeman, your boy.
Love Martin Freeman. I loved it that
Daniel Kaluuya.
Yeah, Daniel Kaluuya, amazing. And I'm blanking on his name. The man who plays M'Baku, who was in Us.
Winston Duke.
Winston Duke.
Yeah.
He is outstanding playing the man-ape.
So good.
Yeah, it's just amazing. Oh my god. I want a whole movie on him. He's amazing.
Oh yeah, me too.
One thing I remember hearing was I saw an interview with Martin Freeman, and they were talking about him playing pretty much the only main white character besides Ulysses Claw in the movie. And they're like, what was that like on set? Like, how was that on set? And he's like, I remember he just reading the interview. He was like, "What kind of question is that?" He's like, "It was a set. It was any other set." It's like there's nothing different about being on this set, and just what kind of question would you ask that? And he was just like, I thought that was an amazing interview. That he was just like, when they reamed the interviewer of like, "You idiot! Like, why would you ask the question like that?" Like, it's a set. It's any other movie set. I'm an actor working on a movie. There's nothing different just because there's less white people than there normally is on a set of a Marvel movie. But I mean, just the cast is fantastic. This movie is amazing. I remember just in theaters because we have that shot where it just opens up in Oakland, and the whole theater just lost their minds when just Oakland comes on the screen. Because when does Oakland get to be in a movie like a superhero movie like this?
Yeah, especially like this part of Oakland.
Yeah.
Like, in this era, like the way that they like instantly just like the costumes were perfect. The music was perfect. The scenery was perfect. It's just like everything was so well thought out down to the final detail. And I think that's what you get with the Ryan Coogler movie.
Yeah.
Very respectful to, every single little minute detail that a lot of people wouldn't care about. But he was just like, no, we have to do it this way.
Yeah, like the talent of Ryan Coogler. I mean, just the lineup of his movies. Creed, amazing. Fruitvale Station, amazing. I mean, the dude has he's got so much talent. And Black Panther 2 is announced, and he's attached to direct it. I don't know how that's going to go through now. But, I mean, the dude is a talent. The dude knows what he's doing. And he brought something that not many directors, I think, like Dom and I talked about last week. Taika Waititi brought his version of Marvel. Like he took Thor and made it his own, and made it very tight and put it in his style. Like it's very Taika Waititi. It's the same thing with Ryan Coogler. He took a superhero movie and made it very much his own. And I think a lot of that, for me at least, comes through in the music with Kendrick Lamar's soundtrack being grade A.
So good. And not just Kendrick Lamar. Like think about every single other artist that he was able to like bring in along with him. There was, the main track Kingstead has J-Rock, it has Future, it has James Blake, like all these like great performers, songwriters, hip-hop artists. He's got SZA on a song. The way that he was able, like, that he had the foresight to have Kendrick Lamar, like somebody who so perfectly kind of captures like West Coast hip-hop culture, and then a lot of the movies based out of Oakland. It's just like, I know it would have been maybe different to get E40 or something, somebody's like truly Oakland, but like I think Kendrick Lamar so like beautifully represents like West Coast hip hop that it was just a great call right away.
Yeah. And I mean, this movie just starts out with a bang. Like we have Sterling K. Brown, one of my favorite actors out there right now, one of the most talented I think at comedy and drama. That's so hard to do. There's not many actors that can like make you laugh your ass off like he did in that Lonely Island music video where he in the Bash Brothers where he was Sia in Oakland Nights. Like that dude's and then make you cry on a show like This Is Us.
God,
like
that
how
show,
many actors can do that?
Oh my God, he owned the screen in his like brief moment.
Very
in this.
brief.
I couldn't take my eyes off of him. He was so powerful. His face, I think it's his facial expressions. He's so like he can tell such a great story just from like a look. And I think to your point, that's something a lot of actors struggle with, but he's like, I already know what he's feeling. Like, you can see his mannerisms. You can see if he's stressed. You can see like right when they hear the knock on the door and he's like, it's some whatever Grace Jones looking chicks. And you just see it in his face.
So we start out, with that scene. We're in Oakland, and you find out that T'Challa's father is the king. He's King T'Chaka. And he goes to meet his brother, who you find out has been helped Ulysses Claw steal vibranium from, which Ulysses Claw was I don't know how old that dude is, but he must have been young.
Claw, what is his age? Does he age? Is he Benjamin Button?
His timeline's a little funky.
His timeline is very bizarre. I guess we're assuming that's the 90s.
It's 92, I think.
92, right. So it makes sense. I guess he's 30s, and then maybe.
Yeah. Oh no, yeah, maybe like 20s.
Yeah, 20s, 30s. I like that Forrest Whitaker's son plays young Forrest Whitaker.
Yeah, I forgot about that until this most recent when I did some research for the show. I forgot that worked perfectly though, because it's like
I remember seeing him and being like, that guy that's like a good casting. I look it up, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes a lot more sense.
I thought the same thing when I saw what's that movie, Black Klansman? And I was like, that dude looks a lot like Denzel Washington. Oh, it's his son. That's why. Okay.
Straight out of Compton, you're like, man, Ice Cube, they really casted that well.
It's just me, like, not, like, just being so, like, I didn't do any research going into it.
So dumb. No, obviously not. Like, who's going to research, like, oh, I wonder who they're going to have a young freaking Forrest Whitaker.
I mean, I would, to be honest. But...
Yeah, you would, probably. Facts.
Yeah, I mean, I also like that we have the Black Panther is pretty much, he's set up. Like, we didn't need a whole lot, because we had him in Civil War, and we've already seen what he can do, and I love the banter between him and the General Okoye. Because I love when she's like, she's like, you're going to freeze up. And he's like, I'm not going to freeze up. And he immediately freezes up when he sees the Kia. But that scene
I don't blame him.
Oh my God. Oh, I love Lupita Nyong'o. I wouldn't blame him at all. I would do the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Me too.
That scene is amazing. I think that's the first time we get to see him in like his natural habitat. Because when you see him in Civil War, the Black Panther suit in the middle of a city, it stands out. So to see him like in the middle of a forest at night and like they can't see him, he's taking him out like Batman. Like I love that scene.
Yeah, in the actual environment that the Black Panther suit was made for, and not just like in the middle of traffic, just like
not Berlin.
Like that doesn't blend in very well. Like, for somebody that's supposed to be more stealth. But yeah, you get the technology right off the bat.
Yeah.
Like the way that they're able to, show the little models of the cars, and he knows where she is.
That's crazy.
It's so cool. He can like pick it up. I think this might be like one of my favorite movies where they are able to CGI the tech, because you see in a lot of Iron Man movies, sometimes it's a little awkward looking.
A little rough.
Yeah, it's a little rough, but I think, however, they were able to CGI this. It looked very believable, and it looked really realistic, even though it was like so fantasy and so far out.
Yeah.
I think like they did a really great job with the CGI in this, and everybody knows I have no problem bagging on Marvel CGI with Captain America's neck. So I also give them credit where credit is due.
It looked like Chris Evans' head looked like he was photoshopped by a freshman in high school onto the body of a scrawny person.
It's like they did Facehole, the app Facehole. and then they just like live action did claymation of the rest of his. It's so bad. Like how it was 2011. How could that be?
They've come a long way in those 7 years.
They really have come a long way, from like their choices in CGI to their choices in director. Like I think everything kind of glowed up. Marvel went through a real glow up.
Oh, definitely. And I was talking to Dom about it last week. I think that a lot of that came with James Gunn did Guardians of the Galaxy. Of like, all right, guys, he set a new bar. He's like, we need to make this just look a little bit better, because Guardians of the Galaxy looked really good.
Guardians of the Galaxy did look really good, and I think every movie in this phase basically went up a level. Like I think Phase 1 hit and miss, Phase 2 meh.
Phase 2 was definitely the rough phase.
Phase 2 was kind of the phase that I think everybody was kind of like looking around like, all right.
Yeah, where's this
I'm
going to go?
I'm still going to go because it's Marvel, but it was like lesser. But now we get into this phase and it's like, oof, like everything, like one after the next was just like hit. And I think, like we're talking about, it was the tech, it was the casting, it was all of that.
Yeah, and the technology was something that I remember, because Letitia Wright plays his Black Panther sister, and in the comics, she's like probably the smartest person in the Marvel universe. And I remember talking to him about that, like, well, Tony Stark could have done, like, but he didn't. He didn't even have nanotech until she did nanotech. Like the technology in this movie makes the Iron Man suit look like nothing.
Yes, and I know they have maybe the raw materials advantage with vibranium.
But would Tony even know what to do with that?
No, that's what I'm saying. Like he wouldn't even know what to do. Like Tony's dad got vibranium and he made a circle and gave it to Captain America. Like, okay, give a white man the frickin' tech and look at me, here's a circle, like
here's a frisbee
star on it. Yeah, here's a frisbee, bro. It's like got some boomerang. I don't even know. Like, she's able to build these like this crazy medical tech, all these ships. Like, I don't know.
She can repair a dude who was shot in the spine.
Yeah. M'Baku may not be happy that the technological advancements are in the hands of a child. But, I mean, you can't argue with the results.
Yeah, I know, like, and even, so, like, looking at where they live, like, in the mountains, it's still, like, gorgeous. And that was vibranium. Like, how is he, like, this little girl has done nothing. It's like, dude, look around you for 2 seconds. Like, oh my God.
Yeah, but getting back into the scenes a little bit, I like when we first are introduced to her and she just looks and she says, "Did he freeze?" Like an antelope in headlights. Like, you can see Letitia Wright, like, she owns the screen right away.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's why a lot of people want her as the second Black Panther, because her personality is, like, not only would it be, like, maybe it would be more canon that way, but her personality is, like, so, I don't know, it's, like, mesmerizing almost. Like, when
she'd own
whenever
it.
she's in a scene, she owns it. She completely, even with Chadwick Boseman, who's, like, this brilliant actor, like, right away, you're just, like, she owns the scene.
Yeah, I mean, just the charisma on screen when they get back.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's insane. You get Chadwick Boseman, who's just charismatic as all hell.
Oh,
Letitia
so
Wright
charismatic. Effortless
owns the
swag
screen.
for Chadwick.
Oh, yeah. Letitia just owns the screen. She's outstanding. And then Angela Bassett as... what's her name? It's right here. Ramonda?
Ramonda, yeah.
She's just so, like... I'm trying to think of the word, like, regal.
Yeah, she is very regal. I really, like... Okay, I was kind of, like, ignorant to her because, like, the only thing I remembered her from was American Horror Story. But in American Horror Story, she was, like, one of those characters that every scene you're like, oh, God, like, she's in this, like, something's about to go down. And it's the same thing in this movie. Like, she's so, like, regal, and her presence is just so domineering and powerful, even, like, with very few words. I'm not the best to make a call on this. I don't love her accent in this movie.
Okay.
I think it was maybe a little... I think her and Forrest Whitaker, something about Forrest Whitaker's are a little over the top.
Something about Forrest Whitaker is just a little over the top.
What is Forrest Whitaker's accent in this movie?
In any movie, do you remember him in Rogue One?
Yeah, he is like...
He talks like this. He's like, Jin, come.
Forrest Whitaker is one of those actors where you're just like, oh, that's Forrest Whitaker. Like, you never, like, separate. You never buy into the character, ever. He's like, the Last King of Scotland, right? And you're just like, oh, yeah, that's Forrest Whitaker. Like, there's no moment in a movie where I think he's his character.
I agree with that. I remember seeing The Butler, and the whole movie was just like, because they kept changing actors who was the president, and I'm like, oh, that's Forrest Whitaker and Robin Williams. Like, never in that movie did I believe anyone was their character, especially Forrest Whitaker. Like,
that's a very special talent. Yeah,
he's phenomenal still.
Uh-huh.
He's like, you don't believe him, but you still love him in the movie. Like, it's it's an amazing talent.
I think for, like, some actors, like, it works. Like, Denzel Washington, it's like, oh, that's Denzel Washington. Like,
when you hit a certain level of, like, prestige.
Yeah, exactly. Forrest, I mean, he's great, but, like, like, something about it, like, his accent was so bad in this movie. It was so bad.
But on the other end of accents, you have Martin Freeman playing Everett Ross. He finally got the American accent down. It took him like 3 tries, but he got there.
He needs to take tips from Daniel Kaluuya. Did you know that man is British?
I had no idea. I remember seeing Get Out, and then I saw an interview for Get Out, and I was like, what? He's British?
Yeah, he is so good with accents.
Yeah.
Like, he's another character. Like, how did they get so many characters in this movie that all, like, dominate a scene, but they can all seamlessly work together?
Yeah.
I think that comes down to directing, personally, and writing, obviously.
Yeah.
But like to that point, like him, like I think all I had really seen of his was Get Out, and he was in Black Mirror and a couple other things.
He's great in Black Mirror.
Great in Black Mirror. And then you see him in this, and it's just like he's actually somebody that I can buy into the character that he is. As we were just talking about, maybe Forrest Whitaker not so much, but with him, like I was kind of put into the universe, put into the scene that he is, and like okay, he's this character, and he's portraying it really well.
Yeah, because I like the scene where T'Challa's kind of being like he's gonna finally be able to be the Black Panther, like he's fighting for his right to be the king, and they're going around like, will you challenge? And Daniel Kaluuya has like so much respect. You can see like his act. He's just like, you can see he respects him too much to like even fight him. Which then M'Baku comes in, the man ape, and just goes crazy. I love him in this. Which I remember for the first time, I was like, this dude, and even this time, like, this dude is massive. Like Winston Duke's a big boy.
He's a big boy,
and he comes at T'Challa like pretty hefty. Like I wouldn't be able to fight. I wouldn't fight any of them because they're way too strong. But yeah, I mean, like you said, like just so many actors owning the screen. Like Winston Duke is a just charismatic powerhouse when he's on screen. I love him. I loved him in Us. He went from playing the man ape in this and like believable. You believe like the strong, powerful leader of this group, and then he's just like the quirky dad in Us. And he's just kind of like, he's super sweet, and you're like, I want to give him a hug. And he plays both characters so well. And so when they're on screen and they fight, it's just like you kind of like. There's a little part of me that wanted M'Baku to win just because I like Winston Duke a lot.
I think that scene, that whole scene from, just like you see all the different tribes coming together, all in like their traditional outfits, doing their dance, listening to their music or playing their music. Yeah. It's so colorful. The songs playing in the background, like the scenery of that whole scene is just
it's beautiful.
That was unreal. That's like when that scene came on screen, I remember just kind of like being in the theater, like almost like chills. Like that was one of those like whoa movie moments for me. I don't know about you.
No, definitely. We had a very talkative theater, like not in a bad way. Like they were very excited about the movie and like
midnight premiere of a Marvel movie is going to be talkative.
But that scene came up and it was just silent. Mm-hmm. Like everyone was just like taking in that scene because it's just the CGI is stunning, the music is amazing, the dancing is like everything just hits this like beautiful note of like this cultural thematic. Still like it just sets you right into the world of like what Wakanda is, and it like just perfectly. And everyone was just dead silent. And then the second that, a Wakanda Forever anything comes on, the whole theater loses their minds. It was amazing. And that was just Chadwick owning the screen. I remember, just side note, I remember it being in the theater at the midnight premiere of Infinity War. And right before they attack, and Chadwick just owns that screen for like 3 seconds. You get one like, Wakanda Forever. And everyone in the theater just stood up screaming at that scene. It was like that was the second loudest moment in a theater I've ever had. That moment, and then, which I don't want to spoil it, just for Endgame, when Cap does his thing, that was the other loud moment in the theater. Both of them come from Marvel movies, and I've been to a lot of midnight premieres, and that was one of the moments. But
going into Endgame for 1 second, there's a reason that Black Panther was the first person to walk through the portal. Yeah, there's a reason. Like we keep talking about this. Like this movie is a whole nother level. I think this is a tier 1 Marvel movie.
Easily.
He is a beloved character. Like there is he walked through the portal and I'm not ashamed to admit, I literally cried.
I teared up. I definitely teared up,
dude. When he walked through the portal, I was like, oh my God. Like I was going nuts, even though I knew it was going to happen.
Yeah. And just even like the way everyone acted, Denai Guerrero, I can't say her last name properly. I'm not going to fight it. Okoye. You see like when she's walking through the portal with him and you see like the excitement on her face, like her king is back, and you see Letitia Wright walk through the portal and you're just like, it feels like so perfect. And you're just like, these are these characters that you only see like really 3 times and you're immediately just in love with them. And they're your characters that you just hold like so dear. And it's just the acting. Everyone did such a phenomenal job. I mean, that was just the way that Chadwick did his characters. I remember seeing 42 and just being like blown away. Like, you love Jackie Robinson. Like, not that you didn't before, but like his portrayal of just like was perfect. I remember even seeing, my girlfriend and I went and saw 21 Bridges.
Mm-hmm.
and he just owns that screen. And that was one thing that like just reminds me so much, like you said, when he walks through that portal and he just owns it, and you're like, that's the king right there. That's the king of this whole thing.
You see the silhouette and it's just chills.
Yeah.
And that's like, I don't know. I just like from that scene at the waterfall, I think that was the, where he's fighting for the right to be king. That's like the first scene that I was really just like, oh my God, like this, I'm in for it with this freaking movie right now.
Yeah. And then immediately after, so he wins that fight in a great fight, and then he gets like buried in that sand and gets to see his father again for like just a second, and like that's a scene that's beautiful. Yeah,
the scenery is so
the colors,
beautiful. The colors. I just feel like if I was passing into the other realm, I wouldn't want to be the old man version of myself. He's like, comes off the tree as like this majestic Black Panther, and then it's just like King T'Chaka with like a lazy eye, just like, hey guys, what's up?
He's living his best life.
He's living his best life, yeah, because
his best afterlife.
So powerful, his best afterlife. And what was it in Civil War when he says, in Wakanda we don't believe death is the end; it's like a new beginning. And so we get to see like what death is for the Wakandan culture and for the Black Panther and the former king specifically. And that scene is absolutely mesmerizing. One of the best uses of color in any Marvel movie for me.
Yeah, definitely. This movie, like, I feel like they did such a good job of like, they made it look natural, but I feel like when they shot this movie, they just bumped the saturation way up and it made it look beautiful. Like everything looks stunning in this movie. And the use of color and everything was fantastic. And then after this scene, we get to kind of see him be king. One thing that really bugged me, though, so after this scene, Ulysses Claw, right, they track him down, and Daniel Kaluuya's character is like, we've been trying to get him, like, you better go get him. Mm-hmm. And then we'll talk about what happens during, but then he comes back without Claw, and Kaluuya just immediately turns on him. And I was like, dude, like, why did you immediately turn much. No, it took very little to turn against him.
I don't know. He seemed... I know we talked to, like, he seemed so supportive and they're homies and blah, 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 but something about him, he seemed a little shifty from the beginning. And going back to that waterfall scene where he's kind of covered with his robe and he's doing this little shimmy and just kind of, like, looking around. I don't know. He kind of had... It seems like he had some inklings, like, I really could be the leader here. Or he could maybe use some different leadership, but I'm just going to let him go because he's my friend. He turned on him pretty quickly.
Pretty fast.
Like, there wasn't a ton. Like, you didn't even hear him out. You didn't even hear the story out.
No, he's like, you didn't come back with him? I hate you now. And it's like, whoa, okay, hold on.
A little moody there, big guy. All right, sun's getting real low here.
So, okay, real side note. I remember... Just for the viewers at home, if ever in college I got like a little upset, you and Dominic would always be like, hey, Doug, sun's getting real low, bud. And it would just make me feel so much worse.
The problem with that is that you can't react in anger towards it.
No.
Because we're already making you feel bad for being triggered.
Oh, yeah? You are?
Oh, you are? Yeah, that was the other one. Whenever Doug would complain about something, I'd be like, oh, yeah, uh-huh.
Just put me right in my place.
Yeah. I always brought you down a peg. That's what you needed.
You were really good at that. If ever I needed it.
That. Everybody needs a friend that just makes them feel terrible about themselves. And for
this movie, it's Killmonger. Segue.
And for this movie.
Michael B. Jordan. Phenomenal actor. I'm so glad he got a second chance in Marvel after that just horrendous pile of shit that is the Fantastic Four.
Oh, God. As you were saying that, I was running through my head. I was like, what Marvel movie was Michael B. Jordan in?
Exactly.
And that just goes to show you what a steaming pile of dog shit Fantastic Four was.
An hour and a half long, and they don't get their powers till like 55 minutes in. Why were we watching that movie? I didn't pay for it, to be honest. Someone was with at the time got on their computer. I didn't pay for it. Oh my God, a bad movie. So because Chris Evans got the same thing. He was a Human Torch. Human Torches always get a second chance. Chris Evans got a second chance to be Captain America. Michael B. Jordan, Human Torch, got a second chance to be Killmonger.
To make a worse Fantastic Four movie than the original Fantastic Four movie from Sony was hard, and they did it.
I just actually rewatched, because it's on Disney Plus now. I just rewatched the Fantastic Four with Michael Chiklis as the Thing.
Uh-huh.
And just, I think that says enough about that movie. Michael Chiklis was the Thing.
They made two.
They did. They made two. And the second one was even worse.
Somehow they topped themselves. The only selling point is Jessica Alba.
Yeah, because I can't even name the dude who plays Mr. Fantastic, because I know him.
He's a very familiar actor, but I can't. That movie was so that's a movie that should be good. It shouldn't be hard to make that movie good.
Yeah,
but they're 0 for 3 now. Like, how?
That's true. I remember, because the only thing I know him from is he's Mr. Fantastic, and remember in Horrible Bosses, he's the guy that pees on other people for money. That's the only other thing.
You mean he does wet work?
He's a wet. Are you Dale? I am the one they call Dale.
We got to do a whole podcast on Horrible Bosses. Anyways.
Oh, easily. We'll get there. We'll do it eventually. But yeah, just back to Michael B. Jordan. We get the introduction of him in London, and they're going to steal the vibranium from that museum, which he just kills that museum curator.
Yeah, pretty
by poisons her.
His outfit on point.
His hair on point. I love his hair.
On point. That scene's so cool.
Yeah, he's just cool.
I wish I had a better way to say that. And I'm gonna say something slightly spicy. I don't know if Michael B. Jordan's actually a good actor. Hear me out, audience.
Grayson's throwing a little spice on this podcast.
Yeah, I'm just gonna throw a little chili pepper. Wait, I'm white. I'm just gonna put a little fresh cracked black pepper on this.
Oh, too much.
Maybe a pinch of salt. I think he's very intense in a way that seems forced in this movie.
That's fair.
And I feel like in the past you've said you don't love Killmonger as a villain.
I didn't like that. Killmonger in the comics is a phenomenal villain, but in this movie, he's just golden Black Panther. He's the Black Panther suit that's gold instead of purple. That's it. That's the only difference. I didn't like that about him.
A lot of people loved Killmonger.
I think a lot of people love Michael B. Jordan.
Yeah, he is hot.
Yeah.
I'll give him that. But I don't know, he's so cool in this scene, but then as he gets into Wakanda later in the movie, it's everything he's saying is this I guess in a way he's been preparing for this moment his whole life, but everything he says is a speech that feels like it's been written out. And a lot of times, maybe it's just because I have social anxiety, and when I start talking, I'm like, and then I trail off, and I'm like, okay, I actually entirely forgot what I was about to say. But he was everything was I don't know, it was written by Shakespeare. He hit the rhyming pattern, the rhythm pattern. It was why is everything so perfectly spoken, and I don't know, it's so rehearsed sounding.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. I think they focused a lot on Black Panther and his surrounding characters. And I think I think you and I have talked about this as well in the past shows. I think where Marvel has always fallen short is their villains. I think they spend so much time building up these heroes, and then they're like, oh shit, we forgot to write the villain. It's just put him in the same suit, just make a different color, and just do that.
Yeah, this is literally Red Skull, but Black Panther. It's literally I can do what you do, but bad.
Yeah, but evil.
But evil. But I will say, for once in an origin story, the villain's motive is very believable.
Oh, viable. Yeah.
Very real.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people, while maybe they don't agree with the means, they agree with the message that he is sending. And I think in that way they did a very good job. But the way they represented him maybe didn't justify everything. And I don't think it's necessarily Michael B. Jordan. even though crapped on his entire career briefly.
Just for a minute.
Michael B. Jordan's gonna lose any sleep over my opinion or any money, and he shouldn't. I just think that he was very over the top in this movie, but Killmonger's vision was very interesting and a very good, believable motive.
Yeah, one thing that I found interesting, especially like why I chose this beer with the Black Lives Matter movement, is thinking about where Killmonger would have, what his plan would have been, where if he were, actually the person right now in this situation. And it's interesting to think about because he's a lot like the way I think of Thanos. He's a good villain in the way of I see your point, and Thanos the same way. As a viewer, you look at the villain and you go, I see your point. You're just going about it the wrong way, and that's what makes you a villain. And that's what makes a good villain is when the audience can say, I get it though, like I get it. And I think that was a lot of like what you're saying. His point is valid, whether he's still evil. Like he goes about it the wrong way.
Yeah.
But his ideas are something that you can kind of see and understand, which is not something that like you can't obviously like Red Skull. You're just like this dude's bad, and there's no depth because the dude's just bad. Everything about him's bad, and that's it. It's one dimensional. Him was like, he's bad, but I get it. I see it.
Yeah, a lot of people wanted to say that T'Challa and Killmonger were like the opposite ends of the coin. Like one of them was more for peace, and one of them was more for destruction and like going. I think Nakia actually was more the opposite of Killmonger because they were going after the same exact thing in a sense. But you saw Nakia doing it in a way that was, non-violent, but still powerful. And you saw Killmonger doing it in a way that was maybe more violent and more, rah revolution. So I think Nakia needs a little bit more credit for kind of shaping the way that T'Challa was thinking. And I think we get there in the end anyways.
I want to know more about her character. I wish that we can see her character more because a lot of what she was doing was so interesting and fascinating. Like trying to bring Wakanda to the world and not just keep Wakanda hidden. And like you said, it's the same idea that her and Killmonger had the exact same idea, but like you said, going about it completely the wrong way.
Exact same. Yeah. Like everything, they were two sides of the same exact coin. One of them was more violent, and then the other one more non. But even so, she wasn't afraid to get her hands a little bit dirty.
Yeah, not at all.
So I don't know. I just think she was a phenomenal character in this movie.
I mean, played by Oscar-winning actress who just owns the screen. Lupita Nyong'o, just her role in Us. Like, just think of one role, because 12 Years a Slave, she's phenomenal. But her role in Us, I remember she plays that. Like, obviously, there's the twist at the end, but if you haven't seen the movie, I'm not going to spoil it. Well, I probably want to do a show on that at some point. But as the main, like, the mom is amazing, and you trust her and you feel for her, and then her as the tethered is fucking terrifying. I didn't sleep because of that fucking face that she could do of just like contorted and freaky, and it haunts my dreams. Which, by the way, Jordan Peele's the only director who could take that song from Us and make it scary. Remember that song?
I Got 5 on it?
Yeah. Take I Got 5 on it and make it terrifying. Because he went like, do. And you're just like, oh, shit. Okay, well, we'll have to do a show on the Jordan Peele films at some point.
Yeah, the director of Insidious took the easy way out and just got Tiny Tim to sing Tiptoe Through the Tulips, which is already mortifying. Without Darth Maul, or whatever that villain was supposed to be. I don't even know if you've seen that scary movie because you're not very good at scary movies.
I'm not.
But to take I Got 5 on it is impressive.
I'll say I asked you to come watch The Conjuring with me because I was scared, and you pieced out the second it was over and left me alone. I was terrified. I hate scary movies.
If anybody wants comfort, I'm not the person to turn to.
I learned that very quickly.
Yeah. No, but I usually offer a solid quip or two during a scary movie to kind of take a more lighthearted approach, but yeah.
You were being quippy as I was watching the movie like this.
I think it's because the first time I ever saw that I was on an edible, so then I didn't really remember it.
It's legal in California where
Yes,
we are.
folks, it's legal. I have glaucoma.
Where are we? What's happening in the movie? Okay, so I want to go with the scene. Yeah, so Killmonger. So Killmonger he basically breaks Claw out of prison after, but I want to talk about the chase scene.
The chase
where they're
scene.
chasing
Thank
down
you.
Claw.
I was like, we need to talk about the
That
chase scene.
is the greatest chase scene in film history. I'm not wrong. It's the greatest chase scene in film history. It's the greatest chase scene in film history, with that song "Ops" by Vince Staples and what's his name, Blackrock, Jürgen Blackrock.
Mm-hmm.
That song was amazing in that scene, and I want to play it, but I can't because copyright issues on YouTube. But oh my god,
you can do an acapella version, maybe.
I won't do it with justice.
Yeah,
that chase scene, and then you have Black Panther, and you got Letitia Wright in the car remotely, and then you got Okoye, and you got Nakia in the other car chasing, and she's badass. She gets on top of the car. She's throwing spears. Mm-hmm. I remember that scene where I'm in the theater, and she gets on the car. She does her whole thing. She throws a spear, does her flip. My friend leaned over me and just went, "Oh my god, I think I'm in love." She just
such
everyone
a powerful
that
woman.
Oh my god, she just owns that screen, and you just look at her and you're like, she is a fucking queen, man. She kills.
She is the greatest warrior in Wakanda. That's what Nakia says herself.
Yeah,
like,
she is
not
amazing.
the Black Panther, not the Black Panther. It's her.
I have one issue with her character. One issue with Okoye, and that is at the end when Killmonger takes over as king, and she's like, "I serve the king," and I was like, "Dude, like, but you know he's like super wrong." Like, I don't know, that just struck a nerve with me. I was like, I get like that's your job, you serve the king, but like, he's gonna kill a bunch of innocent people, and you're just gonna help him because he's the king.
Well, she turns, she sees it. I think she might have underestimated him because like she said, her alliance is to Wakanda. It's to the crown. It's not to any one person. And I think that's supposed to show her morals were being very much challenged. And I think she stood strong in a way that was maybe admirable at first, but once she saw the true colors kind of come out, that's when she really realized, whoa, I made the wrong call. But I think her as a character, like, how many side characters get like that little screen time and can have that much character development?
Oh yeah,
like that was awesome.
Yeah, and just what do you think? Like, when you watched that chase scene, like, what did you take? Because I was blown away that first time. What about you?
I was blown away. I just remember, I think it was a Lexus commercial, right? Like, I remember it was literally on TV as a Lexus commercial, like part of it.
Maybe.
Yeah, like
maybe.
I'm having these strange like memories.
I don't remember.
But I just remember that chase scene felt like it was an hour and a half long. It's like it was so good, but it was like 3 minutes of actual screen time.
Yeah.
Like it zips by, but it feels like it's so like you're just like so much on the edge of your seat. It feels like it lasts forever. And the way that they're following like all these different cars at once, and then she's like operating it remotely, which then plays a role at the end of the movie when Martin Freeman's operating the ship remotely. I just think that scene's so cool. Like, I wish I had better words, but so much of this movie is just cool.
Yeah, definitely. It was just such a God. It's so pumped up. Like, don't drive that song because you're gonna want to go 120 miles an hour and just go fucking crazy.
Yeah, I think that like I don't want to like go past the like the fish market turned casino, because like where can I get that invite? That was like a Bond movie.
It was so cool. And I want to go there. Like, where can I party there? Can I be? Well, first, can I be rich enough to go there? Because it looks like you need to be pretty fucking.
Yeah, you got to be swinging. You got to be swinging. But that Korean lady seems like she's so cool. But
I want to smoke a joint with her.
yeah, but she's like homies with Claw, which maybe is problematic.
You're right. I forgot that. Never mind.
Yeah.
I take that back.
Yeah, maybe. But she's seen some stuff for sure. She's probably got some good stories.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, that chase scene is like dynamic, edge of your seat. It's like, imagine Fast and the Furious, but good.
But if they tried,
But we're gonna get a lot of hate for that one. But people are very protective over their Fast and Furious. But
Hobbs and Shaw.
Imagine if Dwayne The Rock Johnson was Black Panther. Imagine if Vin Diesel was playing.
Did you know that he just came out with a song?
Yeah, oh, yeah. Did I know? I've already streamed it 12 times.
Oh, you're the one.
Yeah.
You're the 12 listens.
It's so good. Like, unironically good. Anyways, back to the movie. So now Killmonger just comes to Wakanda.
Killmonger kills his girlfriend and Ulysses Claw.
Yes.
And
Brutally.
just goes into Wakanda. He's like, I'm the king now. And they're all like, I guess he can, yeah.
He has the tat.
Yeah, the lip tat.
He's
got the ring that his father had.
He has the right to challenge for the crown.
Yeah.
It's his blood. Everybody's like, what? And they're like, I guess. Like, he has like this like kind of Bill Belichick. Like he found the loophole in the rule book, and he's like, I'm gonna exploit that. And then he takes his shirt off, and then he says, "Is this your king?" And I think 1,000 memes were born from that moment.
2018 was just filled with memes from that scene.
That exact scene, like I think people who hadn't even seen the movie ever, who had never seen a Marvel movie, were using that picture and that line every day in their common vernacular, and it's still part of I always say, "Is this your king?" Like, I always say it. Like,
I can vouch for that. I've heard you say
James
that many
messes
times.
up, like, for the Lakers. I'm like, "Is this your king?"
Don't bring your Laker hate in here. Not that I like Lakers. I don't watch basketball, but
sorry, I just have a lot of it. But that
so much.
That second scene, that Killmonger fighting T'Challa, so cool. Like,
yeah,
that is just so beautiful and well done. And the struggle, it makes you believe that they're like, why is Killmonger so much better than him?
He had that, like, because T'Challa had training, but I think it's different kind of training when you're training to learn to fight compared to when you have to learn to fight to survive. Black Panther, T'Challa didn't have to learn to fight to survive. He had to, Killmonger to learn to fight to just stay, because I don't think they ever explained what happened to his mother, but obviously his father was killed by the king. So he had to learn to fight to just be alive, and I think that's where that strength, that extra strength, like physical strength, comes from. So is that anger that he was holding on to, as well. Because he didn't seem to fight better; he just fought stronger.
And I think I almost answered my own question as I was thinking about it while you were talking. I think T'Challa was fighting to get him to yield.
Yeah, he didn't want to kill him.
Killmonger was fighting to kill, and that was the difference. Because T'Challa had 1 or 2 chances to end the fight if he actually wanted to kill him, but that wasn't the way he did things ever.
Yeah.
Until the end. Spoiler. And I think Killmonger was just so aggressive and strong, where T'Challa is more kind of like about like kind of like grace and stealth, that it just was kind of an awkward matchup for him maybe at first, but then once he had already fought him, he kind of understood what he had to do.
Yeah, and I mean that fight was just, it was like almost heartbreaking to watch, because he's just getting beat down, and you have, even just on the sideline, you have Shuri and his mother just like, they're freaking out. He's getting, it's
shook.
Yeah, she's like yelling, like, "Come on, brother, come on!" And he's just losing and just getting beat down. Till finally, she's like hucked over the waterfall, and he's like, and it sets in for everyone, just like, oh fuck, like, hey, this is our king now.
Is this your king? Is this your king? God, I love that line.
And yeah, I mean, it was just, and then just the downward spiral of like that starts in Wakanda, but then we get to so when he becomes king, he goes and he gets buried in that same sand, and he gets to see his father, which was also a great scene. Sterling K. Brown kills it, and I think one thing I liked about that was because when T'Challa got to do that, he saw his father. He was his age, and his father was there, and they just had a very nice, like, quiet conversation. Whereas Killmonger was like regressed. He was a child again. He was back I think that it brought him back to where he left off. I feel like in his life where he was last happy.
Yes.
And it was him as a kid speaking to his father. And that scene is like just heartbreaking of like, because you feel so bad. Like you feel bad for the villain for a minute. You're like, oh my God, like seeing his father again after not being able to see him for how many years. Like it's just heartbreaking.
Yeah. I just think, because you get in that scene, I think he gets the line that the sun sets over Wakanda, we're the most beautiful in the world. I think that scene is really powerful, and just like you're talking about, like the difference between what T'Challa sees and where T'Challa goes.
Yeah.
Which felt very Wakandan, which felt very royal. And then where he goes is back. It's just, I think it kind of just goes back to their roots. And it goes back to their beliefs. And like you said, I don't think Killmonger ever really grew emotionally.
Yeah.
After that moment in his life, after his father was killed, or after his father left. We don't know he was killed yet.
True, yeah.
So, I just love the way that they did that. And then he wakes up and he's like, all right, so yeah, just go ahead and burn the rest of that heart-shaped herb. Which it was like, how are they going to have another Black Panther if the only herb that was saved was the one that she then used for T'Challa?
Maybe there's more, but just that wasn't accessible at the time.
Hasn't grown yet. Maybe they still have seeds or something. Because that
I would assume
seems a little unclear to me. Because I was thinking about that. I was like, oh yeah, they're gonna have another black. Wait a second. Where's the rest of the herb? The heart-shaped herb that they can use to make another Black Panther or grant the powers of the Black Panther.
Yeah.
So when they drink the powers of the Black Panther, we stripped it.
That actually wasn't bad. I could do that.
I could do pretty good, honestly. I just didn't want to be offensive, so I kind of made it more animated.
Yeah, there you go. No, that worked. I liked it. Yeah, and then he kills Forrest Whitaker. You don't kill Forrest Whitaker.
No, you really Forrest don't. Whitaker? He does, but he kind of had it coming to him. He was the one who betrayed his father in a very, very real way. Even though I think Forrest Whitaker was the one who wanted... I like how we just call him Forrest Whitaker. That just goes to show that we can't see him as anything but Forrest Whitaker.
I gotta be honest, I don't even remember his character's name.
Zuri?
Yeah.
No.
Yep.
Yeah.
Zuri.
He was the one that did want the child to come back to Wakanda, right?
Yeah.
But then King T'Chaka was just like, nah, fam.
Leave him.
Which, did we ever get an explanation for that?
No, I don't think so. And I think the crazy thing about that was, like, you see T'Chaka in Civil War, and you're like, what a king, what a nice man, what a good father. And you see him in this one in the beginning, you're like, what a good guy. And then it's just like, it's kind of a dick. And then we just leave it at that.
Yeah, kind of.
And you're like, well, okay, hold on.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it was maybe both characters. I think maybe T'Challa, his growth was that he was maybe eventually able to see his father as somebody that was a human that was able to make mistakes.
Yeah.
Killmonger never went through that growth. Killmonger just always felt like what his father was trying to do was correct and was right. And he never really grappled with the failures of his father because he didn't grow enough to see them emotionally. Whereas T'Challa, because he didn't go through that growth until he was already king. Because even when in his death at first, he just saw him as the perfect man. And I think then T'Challa finally, when he kind of hears that story, he realizes, okay, I need to stop putting my father on a pedestal, and I need to go rule and be better than him. I don't want to strive to be him, you know.
Yeah.
I need to be better. And I think that Killmonger never went through that. He just wanted to finish what his father was doing. He didn't have any goals of his own, really.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, and then after that scene, we get to go to. It turns out T'Challa's alive, and he's stored on ice, like a nice bottle of champagne.
I'm just gonna go put him on ice.
Over with the Jabari tribe, and yeah, I love.
They were gonna give the herb to M'Baku, which, man, I wish we could have seen that.
He would have been insane.
Can you imagine him with the Black Panther powers?
That would have been amazing.
So
I want to see that movie.
Yeah.
And then I like that he says that scene was like, we'll, like, threatening him. He's like, we'll eat you. He's like, no, we're vegetarians.
His personality shift from the first scene that we see him to there is so, like, jarring at first that I didn't think it worked.
Yeah.
But then when I watched it again, I knew it was going to be coming, I was like, okay, like, I get it now.
I like
it
it.
Works.
Yeah. I love, one of my favorite things about M'Baku as a character is the scene in Endgame. They're all charging, and you have, like, Thor and Iron Man and Captain America, the main big heroes up in front, and M'Baku just tearing through. And he just, like, immediately takes something down, just screams, and you're just like, this dude is up there with, like, the Marvel, like, big guns.
Yeah,
the God of Thunder, and there's
confidence
M'Baku.
in themselves than M'Baku. Like,
yeah.
Nobody is more confident with fewer capabilities.
But he still does amazing.
Yeah, he's like an incredibly confident Hawkeye.
Okay, that's a bit of an insult. He's nowhere near Hawkeye.
Nowhere near as good? No, I'm kidding. This is a purely Hawkeye slander podcast between you and I.
We have talked a lot of shit on this show about Hawkeye.
It's
well deserved.
Well deserved.
Well deserved.
But yes, and they see T'Challa is just chilling on ice. And shout out M'Baku for like saving him even though he has the disagreements with him. And I wonder if that goes back to T'Challa sparing him. And I think it does because he's like,
I would assume so,
repaid, but then he still fights alongside him later.
Yeah, they become friends after this movie.
Yeah, now they're just homies, which I love because that is a dynamic duo if I've ever seen one.
Definitely. I want to see more. I wish we could have seen more of that as the movies went on and seen more of like that relationship develop because I think that we're really kind of working them toward them becoming like good friends and like it would have been interesting to see how that worked.
Yeah, and it would have maybe that the Jabari maybe become more part of daily Wakandan life instead of isolating themselves.
Yeah.
But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do now that, Chadwick isn't there, to see that character out. But I think this scene, like the way his personality just goes 180 degrees. Now he's just this like silly, just like
I love it.
oafish dude. Like I love it.
And he helps because then T'Challa comes back and he fights Killmonger but not to be king, just fights him in general. Which that fight scene I think was amazing. It's a good one. I don't think it's the best in this movie, but a good fight scene. But I think the one thing that I love is when you get toward the end and he's beaten him. He's won. T'Challa has won. Mm-hmm. And Killmonger is sitting there and he finally gets to see that Wakandan sunset. And that whole scene is just like, it's heartbreaking to see a character, even though he's a villain, you're still kind of heartbroken to see that happen, see him die, really, because he was like, I don't get his reason. I mean, no, sorry, misspoke. I do understand his reasoning of how he's like, why would I live the rest of my days in a cell just like my ancestors did, as and he's like, I'm either gonna die or I'm gonna live free, and I think that was interesting, and a great character point because I think a lot of villains in movies will do anything to stay alive. But his point was
all about his goal, and nobody was going to stop him, and if he was stopped, he didn't want to live in the world because he thought that was the only way, I think. That he was going to be willing to go on. Was he literally king for a day?
I don't think we know how long. I'd say like maybe like a day or two. Yeah, not very long.
Because it's like, I want to go see Wakandan sunset. Like, wait. What did you do day one?
I think it was like a day, maybe. It wasn't that long.
I like to believe that he was literally king for like 8 hours, and then T'Challa came back and was like, "Surprise, bitch!" Like, bet you thought you saw the last of me, and we'd come full American Horror Story circle. But yeah, and then T'Challa brings him up there, and just another like beautiful scene.
Yeah.
On top of the giant Black Panther rock, which I think we saw the gorilla for the Jabari, but we didn't see the Black Panther. Did we see it until that moment? Because I don't really remember.
There were like 1 or 2 shots they showed it, but it was very like quick. It was more just like set up the scene, and then we're where we're at. Mm-hmm. It was the shot when we first see Letitia Wright's character in her lab. Like they kind of do a setup shot, and then we go inside the lab.
Yeah.
But I'm not hopping to post-credit scenes, but is there anything else you want to talk about? Is there any notes you had about the movie? Anything else you want to get in before we move on?
No, I mean, this movie was just like, it's one of my favorites, and it holds up every single time I watch it. Like,
easily.
I've never had a bad watching. There's never anything I'm like, you know what? I don't buy that anymore. Like, because I'm somebody that likes to zag when everybody zigs, as you know, and I just can't do it. This movie's just so good.
It's just good. Like, it's undeniably amazing. You can't, like you said, you can't zag that way. There's no like, well, it sucked because of this. Like, it was just a good movie. Just undeniably fantastic. I agree.
Yeah, even though we get like, maybe I have my problems with like Killmonger like being very over the top. Like Michael B's still like pretty solid in this movie. Claw is a great villain also, even though he's like not on screen very much. Like
kind of a villain, yeah.
Yeah, he's like villainish. So no, I just think it's like beautifully well done. Soundtrack's amazing, scenery's amazing. Like no complaints, 10 out of 10 for me.
Yeah. And the movie ends with them finally starting to open up Wakanda to the rest of the world. But we get this end credit scene. We get a mid credit scene where T'Challa appears for the United Nations, basically saying, Wakanda is now going to be a part of the world. We've been lying to you. We're not a third world country. We're ultra powerful. And
be afraid.
Then it was, well, no, we're gonna help you.
The U.S. is sweating though.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
The U.S. is
easily
sweaty when they see
because the U.S.'s anger is misplaced.
Oh yeah.
And then the post-credit scene of Shuri helping Bucky Barnes in his recuperation. We got the Winter Soldier coming back. And I think the way that this movie is the last movie we get before Infinity War, which is where shit hits the fucking fan in this series. And so this was a good, like, a really amazing movie. It gets your hype up, and then Infinity War just slams you right back down to your place.
Yeah, Infinity War, just like one of the most heartbreaking movies ever. After you're built up from like this, I don't even know, this movie was just so like inspirational to me, and then Infinity War is just like, okay, back to reality. Life is depressing.
Yeah, and but yeah, I think we're going to the beer now. If you're cool with that,
let's do the beer.
So this week we're doing a beer called Black is Beautiful. Now, Black is Beautiful is a very important beer, and so why that is, because Black is Beautiful is a collaborative effort to raise awareness. Sorry, I have it on my other monitor, and I have a light blocking it. To raise awareness for injustices people of color face daily, and raise funds for police brutality reform and legal defenses for those who have been wronged. So we did a beer kind of like this before called All Together, where the art, the recipe, everything for the beer is free for brewers to then make, as long as the proceeds go toward a cause. So the way that this beer works is different than most beers. When you make this, if a brewery makes this beer, which I'll get into the brewery that made this one, you have to donate 100% of the beer's proceeds to legal foundations that support police brutality reform and legal defenses of those who have been wronged. You have to choose their own entity to donate to legal organizations that support equality and inclusion and commit to long-term work of equality. And, I mean, what better beer for a movie that is the first movie in the Marvel Universe, and I think DC as well, to have a black main character, someone who this is centered around. And especially where we are, I mean, this has been 2020, I don't think I have to explain anything to anyone else, and to have a beer that promotes this and helps people who are fighting for this cause, who we at Comic Competent, I think I can speak for all, I guess definitely believe in, are on the side of the Black Lives Matter movement. And I buy this beer. If you ever see this beer, just whether you like stouts or not, it's an imperial stout, just buy the beer and give it to me, because I'll just drink it, because I bought a bottle and a can because I like the design. So this is, if you're on YouTube, this is the bottle. Really nice logo. The art is free for brewers, and then on the can you have this art right here, which if you want to see it more clearly, it's going to be on the Instagram account on the day the episode is released, which will be next Monday. That doesn't make sense because you don't know when we record this. But
I'll be on the lookout for it.
It's coming up. I can give you the date. It's a week from it's the 19th, November 19th. But yeah, support this beer as much as you can. If you see this beer, please support it. We have 2 breweries who made these ones. So who made the bottle was Gigantic Brewing, who we have covered on this show before, an amazing brewery. And the can was produced by Indie Brewing Company. If you see this beer, please support it. 100% of the proceeds go to the Black Lives Matter movement and companies that will help people who have been wronged by these injustices. So please go and support this if you can. I cannot recommend it anymore. It's an imperial stout with an 8.7 alcohol by volume. Truly outstanding. I'm not a big stout person, and I think if you're watching, I drank this and the rest of the bottle before halfway through the episode. So I'd highly recommend it. And yeah, I think that wraps up the show. Grayson, thank you so much for being here, man.
Doug, means a lot. I've been waiting for this podcast, this movie. I didn't bring Shrek this time, which was shocking, I think, to the entire audience. But it didn't feel right. It
didn't fit.
More of a somber note, this episode.
Yeah.
But I'm very glad that I got to share a few little anecdotes about what this movie means to me. And I know it means a lot definitely. To a lot of people out there.
Yeah.
And one of the best parts about this is that we just, in the cinematic universe, Chadwick Boseman never dies for us. Like, we get to watch these movies, until the end of time. We get to watch 42. We get to watch 21 Bridges. And so I think in that, the way that he's, able to represent this character, it was just, second to none.
Definitely. And I hope that, like you said, that maybe that this can continue with maybe Letitia Wright, but I think that no matter what happens in this series, no matter what happens with Marvel, he's always going to be the Black Panther. He's always going to be our king.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, Wakanda Forever. I mean, that was
Wakanda
that.
Forever.
Yeah. So, everyone, just different note. Stay tuned. So next week we have Chris and Adam on to talk about Avengers: Infinity War. And then after that is my dad back on the show to talk about Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Your dad is the quintessential Ant-Man source.
He is so excited. He picked out the beer. He's going to be doing the beer segment. So stay tuned for that. That'll be in 2 weeks. And then Grayson will have you and Dominic back on as a joint episode to talk about Avengers Endgame.
Good. The beer will be Modelo.
It just fits.
I'll find a way to connect the two. Both powerhouses.
If you can give me a good reason why, I will do it. But you have to give me a good reason.
That'll be my homework. I won't watch the movie.
So, when the Endgame episode comes out and it's not Modelo, you can come up with a good enough reason. So yeah, stay tuned for that. We're on YouTube, so follow us on YouTube. Subscribe, like, whatever the fuck you do on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram. And just as a side note, we hit over 1,000 listens on the podcast, which I think is pretty cool. So thank you guys so much for listening. Keep on listening. We'll keep on growing and keep on doing more. And Grayson, one more time, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
All right, we'll see you guys next week. Bye.